How much longer will you endure the siege within your own head? That relentless internal noise, the grinding circuit of thoughts that paralyzes your hands and suffocates your potential. You call it overthinking, but that name is too soft, too clinical for the mental war you fight every day. It is not merely thinking too much. It is the mind consuming itself, a corrosive process that convinces you of powerlessness. You believe the chaos is caused by the decisions you must make, the external pressures pressing upon you, or the deadlines you dread. But that is a comforting lie, a distraction from the brutal, invisible truth of the matter. Your overthinking is rarely about the surface problem itself. It is a symptom, a screaming alarm fed by unresolved fears, deep-seated insecurity, or the scars of past trauma. Your mind is loud because there is something essential, something terrifying, hiding underneath, driving the noise in your head. Miyamoto Musashi, the undefeated master, dealt with this internal enemy long before he stepped into any duel. He knew that to conquer any external opponent, you must first master the shadow within. His profound insight was stated simply: perceive those things which cannot be seen. This is not esoteric mysticism. This is tactical necessity. It means you must stop the futile fight against the random, swirling thoughts, the chaotic thoughts, and instead deliberately force yourself to acknowledge the source of the relentless noise. The true enemy is not the email in your inbox or the task on your list. The true enemy, the most brutal and insidious opponent you face, is your own unprepared self. It is the fear of failure you refuse to name, the past wound you refuse to heal, the inadequacy you choose to ignore. Clarity begins with the courage of confrontation. Only when you bravely face those internal shadows, only when you look at the raw, messy reason why your mind is so tragically loud, can you finally begin the ruthless work of silencing it. The moment you name the root cause, you gain an unbreakable weapon against the noise. This act of naming is the first swing of the sword toward self-mastery. We have named the invisible enemy, the hidden fears that fuel your noise. Now, we must dismantle the core mechanism it uses to keep you immobilized. Much of your current paralysis, the endless loop of analysis and counter-analysis, comes from a desperate, obsessive search for the perfect solution, the ideal decision, or the totally risk-free choice. You chase the illusion of the single perfect path, the one road that guarantees success and shelters you from any potential pain or consequence. This relentless pursuit of perfection is not discipline. It is a sophisticated, stalling mechanism, a psychological barricade erected by your fear to justify inaction. You feel busy examining every angle, but you are only retreating from the necessary, brutal act of starting. Musashi knew the deadly cost of this paralysis. He understood that in battle, the man who waits for the perfect moment is the man who dies first. The warrior's reality, as he wrote, is simple and multiple. There is more than one road to the top of the mountain. Life is not a single, predetermined road, a narrow, unforgiving track where a single wrong turn means annihilation. There are multiple viable routes for living and acting, all carrying their own inherent challenges, demanding their own set of skills, and yielding their own unique lessons. Your obsession with the perfect route is what blinds you to the simple truth that any road, diligently walked, leads to the summit. The choice is not between a flawless plan and absolute failure. The choice is between the crippling stillness of analysis and the messy, educational momentum of movement. The freedom you crave is found in the first step taken without certainty. Stop waiting for the perfect answer to descend from some celestial plane. Stop delaying for the external sign that grants permission to proceed. You must simply start walking down the road you have already identified as good enough. This radical acceptance, accepting that there is more than one right way, that imperfection is inevitable, and that mistakes are essential navigation tools, is what frees you. It frees you to experiment, to fail forward, to learn lessons that cannot be found in any book, and most importantly, to regain the momentum of action. The true strategic advantage is not the perfection of the plan, but the unwavering commitment to forward velocity. The perfect path is a lie. The functional path is the one you carve with your feet. You have recognized the hidden fear and shattered the myth of the perfect path. Now, the next and most brutal phase of mental warfare begins. The ruthless culling of the useless. Your mind remains saturated not just by those large looming dilemmas, but by a ceaseless, choking flood of useless distraction. You try to engage in deep, focused thought, yet you carry a psychological burden equivalent to hiking a mountain while wearing a heavy, garbage-filled backpack. Musashi's sharp, tactical rule for the warrior cuts directly to this weakness. Do nothing which is of no use. This is a command to confront and discard the monumental waste of your most precious resource, mental capacity. Trying to move forward, to gain clarity, or to achieve meaningful victory while dedicating hours a day to mental garbage is not admirable struggle. It is a self-inflicted wound, a choice to be perpetually hindered. What exactly constitutes this useless stream that contaminates your focus and feeds your overthinking? It includes the pointless, raging arguments on social media that change nothing in your reality. It is the vacant, hours-long scrolling that provides fleeting dopamine but zero value to your growth. It is the consumption of sensationalized news that only serves to provoke anxiety without offering any functional information you can use for your own advancement. This mental clutter, this constant input of the unessential, consumes the precious space where clarity, strategy, and deep work should reside. A mind clogged with this low-grade perpetual distraction has no room for the quiet, difficult work of introspection and strategic planning. You cannot hear the voice of wisdom when you willingly immerse yourself in a manufactured cacophony. The response to this self-sabotage must be decisive, and it must be final. You must employ the blade of intention. Look at every thought, every habit, and every persistent interaction through the cold, utilitarian lens of Musashi's code. If a thought does not advance your goal, does not prepare your blade, or does not strengthen your spirit, you must cut it away. If a habit drains your energy without returning value, you must discard it. If a person's presence consistently brings chaos and drags you backward, you must create space. This is not about being cruel. It is about being an architect of your own destiny, understanding that purity of action requires purity of focus. A mind that is rigorously clean, stripped bare of the superfluous, leaves no fertile ground for overthinking to sprout or survive. Only when the useless is destroyed can you clearly measure the true progress of your disciplined journey. You have cleared the field, cutting away the useless, but the threat of relapse remains. The overthinking mind, starved of its usual clutter, will search for a new distraction, a new source of paralysis. It will inevitably land on the curse of comparison. You waste monumental energy observing those around you. The colleague who seems effortlessly successful, the online figure with a perfectly curated life, the competitor who seems to have figured it all out while you still struggle with the basics. This external, desperate comparison only serves to confirm your deepest fears, feeding the doubt that you are inadequate, that you started too late, or that you are fundamentally incapable of achieving true mastery. The external noise of the world then merges with your internal noise, becoming a single, deafening indictment of your worth. You are judging your raw, chaotic beginning against someone else's carefully edited middle. This is a game you are designed to lose. Musashi, the warrior who faced over 60 duels, knew that to win the long game of life, the focus must be unbreakably internal. He fought for honor, yes, but primarily for personal evolution. His true and relentless opponent was never the man across the field, but the man he was yesterday. This is the bedrock of his code of honor, the single metric for all true progress. Today is victory over yourself of yesterday. Tomorrow is your victory over lesser men. The man who stood before the executioner's blade was irrelevant. The only comparison that holds any value, any strategic weight, is the one you make with the person you were 24 hours ago. If you focus on that external noise, you are distracted, and a distracted warrior is a dead warrior. You must focus on the silent, daily improvements that are invisible to the world but monumental to your own spirit. The true advance is slow, silent, and entirely internal. It is composed not of grand, dramatic leaps, but of small, relentless, internal victories. Ask yourself a single, honest question before you sleep. Did I advance even a single step today? Did you dedicate 5 more minutes to difficult work? Did you resist the pull of the useless stream just once? Did you maintain your focus for 1 minute longer than the day before? If the answer is yes, then you have already won the only battle that truly matters. Your true power is forged in the small, consistent acts of discipline that accumulate in the dark, where no one is watching. By focusing fiercely on improving consistently against your former self, the external noise of others' perceived perfection loses its power entirely. It is just wind, and you are the rock. You now possess a clean mind, focused not on external comparison but on the relentless, private conquest of your yesterday's self. Yet, even with this discipline, the internal noise can persist, often fueled by an insidious anxiety, the trap of impatience. You demand immediate answers, instant momentum, and spectacular results now. This anxiety, this corrosive desire for success yesterday, is the engine that drives a significant portion of your overthinking. You pressure yourself to force outcomes, to accelerate a rhythm that nature simply does not permit. You try to harvest the fruit the day you plant the seed, and when the result does not materialize on your timeline, the mind floods with doubt, fear, and analysis, plunging you back into the paralysis you worked so hard to escape. This is a fundamental disrespect for the process of growth. Musashi, in his final and most famous duel against Sasaki Kojiro, demonstrated that true victory is not merely about strength or technique, but about impeccable timing. He did not win by rushing. He arrived late, using a wooden sword carved from an oar, and employed a calculated psychological game that put Kojiro off balance before the first strike. Musashi knew precisely when to wait, when to attack, and when to retreat. His understanding of timing was a strategy, a lethal philosophy. Life operates by this exact same principle. You must learn to discern the difference between a moment that requires immediate, decisive action, like cutting the useless stream, and a moment that demands disciplined, patient waiting, like the slow accumulation of skill. Stop pressuring your present self for what has not yet arrived, and for outcomes that are governed by the passage of external time. Instead, you must radically shift your focus to the present act. The only moment you truly possess, the only ground where you can exert control, is right now. What is the single, constructive action that can be performed in this very minute? Not the grand strategy for the next 5 years, but the single, disciplined cut of the sword that this moment demands. By focusing intensely on the immediate task, the anxiety about future results dissolves, because you are actively building the future through perfect execution in the present. Respecting time is trusting the natural process of growth. It is the warrior's patience that allows his true skill to mature slowly, silently, and inevitably. You have addressed the core internal war, facing fear, rejecting perfection, cutting the useless, focusing on private progress, and respecting the warrior's timing. You are now close to a state of unshakable clarity, but one final vulnerability remains, a subtle yet destructive weakness that compromises everything else. The disconnection between your mind and your body. This is a common, brutal problem. When the mind is overwhelmed by thought, the body suffers silently, expressing the turmoil through tension in the shoulders, shallow, frantic breath, and a chaotic inability to find deep, restorative sleep. But the opposite is also devastatingly true. A body that is neglected, fueled by poor choices and denied disciplined movement, drags down the mind's focus like an anchor in mud. The mind and body, for the warrior, are not two separate entities in a passive partnership. They are one unbreakable system. This essential unity is the ultimate principle of the master strategist. Musashi insisted on the total, relentless integration of self. He articulated this unbreakable principle with profound simplicity. Do not let the spirit be influenced by your body, or your body be influenced by your spirit. This means that the clarity you gain through rigorous thought must not be surrendered to physical fatigue or laziness, and the strength of your body must not be allowed to breed arrogance or recklessness in your mind. A clear mind must reside in a temple that is equally strong and functional, and a strong body must be directed by a will that is sharp and untroubled. When this alignment breaks, the overthinking returns, because the mind is working against the friction of the body, and the body is reacting to the mind's internal betrayal. The chaos you feel is the sound of this internal disunity. The ultimate discipline, therefore, is the discipline of harmony. You achieve this not through esoteric meditation alone, but through action applied equally to both fronts. When you deliberately choose to care for your body through rigorous exercise or by establishing proper rest as a non-negotiable command, your mind calms down automatically. The turbulence of overthinking disappears because the central nervous system, which is the bridge between mind and body, is finally grounded and serene. When you bring your action and your thought into perfect, disciplined alignment, when the sword in your hand and the strategy in your mind are one fluid movement, the overthinking and mental overload will not merely be managed, they will disappear entirely. You will enter the void, the state of flow and invincibility where action requires no prior analysis. This is the ultimate victory, the achievement of a total, silent, productive peace. Conclusion. The eternal practice. We have walked the 5 rings of Musashi's strategy, applied not to the sword, but to the constant, paralyzing pressure of the modern mind. You learn to see the invisible enemy, destroy the myth of the perfect path, use the blade of intention to cut the useless, use your yesterday's self as the only metric of progress, and respect the power of timing. Now, the path ahead is not about achieving a final, perfect state of discipline, but about accepting this war against weakness as the eternal practice, the very definition of your growth. The choice is yours. Continue to be a victim of the noise in your own head, or step onto the field and embrace the brutal, yet purifying, discipline of the warrior. Your mind and body are waiting for the command. If this message has awakened the dormant warrior within you, take the single step of commitment now. Subscribe to the channel to continue forging your mind and will with the principles of true mastery. Like this video to signal your commitment to confronting your weaknesses. And in the comments below, claim your new path by simply writing, "The useless is cut." I will see you on the path of relentless self-improvement.